What is up next? Alright, well, we have some options. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Let's put this here. We have a game called Advanced Darning and Dragons. We have Prehistoric Keeper and Cryptid Keeper. They're basically, those two are basically the same game, but one is a little bit like Jurassic Park, and the other one is a little bit more of like you have a zoo with cryptids in it. I'm leaning towards the Prehistoric Keeper. More so than the Cryptid Keeper, because if we're playing this in my world, I feel like the prehistoric animals are more likely to exist than the cryptids, which probably definitely don't exist. Let's see. And then we also have, what was the other one? Where did it go? We have a game about Starlight, and those are our options for now. Dungeons and Darning, you want to do that one? All right. Advanced Darning and Dragons is a game about a knitting club. Do I have the right copy? Yes. Okay. Put this over here. We don't need this. All right. All right. I think for this one, I'm going to set it in my dwarven village. I'll tell you a little bit about the dwarven village. Let me just type Advanced Darning and Dragons. Beautiful. That was exactly what I intended to do. Darning and Dragons. All right. Give me one moment because the cat is just a little bit too close to the on-off switch for my camera and microphone, so I'm going to try to relocate him in keeping with his result of his role. He's not gonna get banned outside, but come here, buddy. Come here. Oh, yep, we're breaking everything. Come here. Come over here. All right. Let's put you over here. Go lie down. All right. I just was afraid he was gonna accidentally turn things off, and I don't need him to be messing with the stream like that. All right, so we're gonna set this in my, I can't type and think at the same time. The setting is going to be a dwarven village. If anybody would like to give a name for the dwarven village, you can name it, because I don't think it has a name yet. It is a border town. So it is close to, let's see, I could pull up a picture if I can find it. hedgerow. I like that. We will call it hedgerow. Here's the map. How do I make it bigger? All right. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see. Kind of. We can make it smaller. Anyway, the border town is roughly here, but because it's like kind of the first stop on the way to the capital, it's like the capital city is down here. The main port is over here. And so because it's like one of the first stops, it's a small village, but it does get quite a few kind of like foreign travelers and stuff, because it's the way to get into the mountains. It's kind of like the most traveled route. It's not necessarily the most direct. Probably better would be if there was a port down here somewhere. But it's the most common way for people to get to the capital. So you've got hedgerow. I'm going to use that. We'll call it hedgerow. It's a place where the dwarves are somewhat suspicious of outsiders, including the trolls who are here. This is their capital city. But despite having that that suspicion, they are also kind of, they come into contact with those cultures pretty frequently because they are a border town. Hedgerow. We are suspicious of outsiders. All right. So we are going to be playing as a dwarf. Oh, we don't have to play as a dwarf. It's just more likely that we will be. It is a game of geriatric gossip and geriatric high fantasy adventure. And the person who came up with this game is named Luka Brave. The cat game is by M. Belanger. Just in case we wanted to name the creator, because I think it's important to give people credit where credit is due. Let's create a character. Where did my pencil go? Is that what fell? Oh, here it is. All right, we're gonna roll an 8-sided die. This one's the D8. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's not helpful. There's the table that I was looking for. All right, we're rolling for the personality. We are grouchy. We're rolling for the former career. All right, so we got radio star, but there are no radios in my world. So let's see what we can think of that is similar to a radio star that would fit in a D&D type world. I'm just going to say actor. And we're going to roll for her hang up. She was terrible at it. All right. So we've gotten ourselves a character. All right, what is her personality? I think she's a little bit... She's a little bit dramatic. I think I'd like to call her Blanche, but if anybody has any better names for her, put them in the chat. All right. So the prompts that they have are personality, which we've covered. I got in the business because. Now this person is like based on the framing of the game, this person is a fantasy novel writer. And so I think when they say the business, they mean how did she become an author? So I think that it makes sense for her to feel like if she needs to have more control over her stories, she's decided to write novels instead of being an actor. Because she's a little bit of a like controlling type person. Now her favorite book that is not one of hers. Which is interesting. Because I don't have any book names. The only book that exists like by name in my world is like just like a history book, which is basically like kind of like their Bible, their version of the Bible. And I don't know if that's really consistent with her. I think it's probably a technique book. Chatting to let Twitch know I'm still here for your view count. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. You're welcome to. I think you were the one that was going off to work, so don't get in trouble if you can't fully participate. But appreciate you being here. All right, so I think her favorite book is probably something like, you know, this one actor, The Guide to Audience Admiration. That's good. Do we want to come up with a name for her acting idol? Hi, and bye again. Lurking some more. Only 30 minutes to go, and then it's done for the day. Awesome. Good luck with the last 30 minutes. Who's a famous actor that we could put into my world? Oh gosh, I'm bad with actor names. Yeah, I'm not great with them either. Scarlett Hillendale. All right. And why? Because let's see. All right. I think it's a scarcity thing. Like, Scarlett didn't have a whole lot that she shared with people, and maybe if she did have like an apprenticeship program or a training studio or something, it was very selective, I think. Scarlett O'Hara with a fantasy twist. Yeah, it's nice. I think she was probably very selective. It was very difficult to get into her school, and I'm thinking maybe our character Blanche hasn't never qualified, but still felt like there was a lot to learn. So she got the book, and she just kept, you know, hanging on every single word that Scarlett ever wrote or spoke. All right, now let's talk about Blanche's current book that she's writing. Is it too meta if Blanche's current book is about a cat who wants a lap? All right, so this is a real event that occurred in my world. Be Thine Odin Buyer. It's a self-absorbed book about why actors are awesome. So I believe the way that this game is set up is it's specifically fiction novels. So that's why I think she wants to tell her, like she wants to be able to tell stories, and she can't currently act, so she's gonna write books instead. However, I'm gonna put that as her second favorite book. All right, we're on ads. So I'm just gonna pause here. So the book Blanche is currently writing is historical fiction. I'm thinking it covers it covers the time period shortly after the destruction of the library at Camber, which is a real event in my world. It kind of that destruction kind of ushered in the next age, because it's almost like the medieval period for us is like a time of lacking in knowledge. things were kind of like the Dark Ages, because there was an attack on like literature and knowledge, and so she's covering that time period. And I'm gonna say her setting is probably hobbits, which are called bitlings in my world. Let's see. What does she want? I think she feels that her story is too simplistic. She recognizes that bitlings live a very simplistic life and it is a simplistic time, but she wants to make it more juicy, more complicated. And her editor wants her to just stick with her genre. And I think her editor wants her to just pick a genre, but she so far has written books in like a bunch of different ways, and her editor is like, just please pick a style so that I can know how to market you properly. All right. I think that's enough about this character. And we're gonna roll a d4 to see how many other people are in this knitting group. Oh, 5. Okay. I didn't roll a 5 on a d4. It's a d4 plus 1. All right, so we're going to roll for each of the knitters as well, but we're going to be a little quicker about it. Where's my page? All right, if anybody else would like to roll some d8s, put your numbers in the chat and I will tell you what other characters we have in this knitting group. All right. Jeff, a snooty chef. Give me one more d8. All right, and I'll start typing these up. Number 4 is, okay, a snooty chef hated by the grandchildren. All right, so here's who we've got in this knitting group. We've got a grouchy seamstress, who hates knitting but is lonely, and that's the only option. We've got a show-off stay-at-home parent who can't cook. We've got a somber lawyer who is not very bright. We've got a gregarious. I'm going to change one of them because there's a repeat. So let's go with a gregarious ER nurse who is hated by all cats. And then we've got Jeff's Is that 5? Did we get to 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. All right. So we've got the other knitters in the group. Let's come up with names for them. I'm gonna say they should be kind of old person names. Betsy, You know what? I'm just going to make a little table for this because I think it'd be easier to read. Would you like your character to be Florence? I'll put this here. Tilly. And an emergency room nurse name. All right, so we've got Betsy, a grouchy seamstress who hates knitting, but she's lonely, so she comes to this anyway. Eugene, a show-off. Eugene, I think, is really proud of the fact that he was a stay-at-home parent. He was there for his kids, and he was expecting all of the back pats and stuff like that. But he doesn't cook very well, and his kids probably didn't like his food, but there was no other option, so they just ate it. But he did his best. Tilly is a somber lawyer. She or they, I'm gonna go with they, are not super bright. They had kind of a mediocre career. They retired, they're doing okay for themselves, but maybe not necessarily the most stellar of careers. Married, I think, is gregarious emergency room nurse. That is why the cats hate them, because gregariousness doesn't really attract cats at all. They would prefer someone who's a little bit more energetically sedated. Florence should be a nurse. Okay, we could switch them. Do you want the chef to be married and Florence will be the nurse? All right. So this is our very full knitting group today. Now, so that's they have a name, they have a character. Oh, okay. So what's going to happen is, as we are sitting in this knitting group talking to these people, what is our name? I forgot already. Blanche. Blanche likes to write. She likes to write stories based on the people in her knitting group. And so all of the things that are happening, she comes to the knitting group. She starts to write in her head stories about the people based on the gossip that she's hearing from these people. So we are going to take all of these people and give them novel character names. And because it's placed in the Bitling setting, we could maybe give them some names that are similar to what Bitlings would be named, which is probably something pretty similar to like the naming conventions of the Lord of the Rings hobbits. So like, you know, Daisy Proudfoot or whatever. We're not going to use the name Proudfoot, but we'll give them like nature-based names, Buttercup and Daisy, or we can give them more sort of stately names like Peregrine, which is a type of bird. So each one of these characters is also going to have their novel character name and an archetype. I think for the archetype, I'm just going to roll for it. I'm going to roll a d10. Am I missing? Oh, nope, I'm not. Thought I was missing a die for a second. All right. All right. Eugene's fantasy name. If you would like to roll a d10, you can come up with the archetype for Eugene. If it's a 10, re-roll it, because there's only 9 options. Or if it's a 10, you can come up with your own archetype. 2, he's a knight. Let's see. Someone who's gregarious. All right. And last one, the snooty chef. All right. We have Betsy, a grouchy seamstress who hates knitting but is lonely. She has been the inspiration for the fantasy character Rye Buttons, and the archetype is the poet. Eugene is a show-off, stay-at-home parent who can't cook. His fantasy name is Pierre Copperbottom, and his fantasy archetype is the knight. Tilly, a somber lawyer who is not very bright, has given inspiration to the fantasy character Hullabaloo Martinshore, and their archetype is the sage. Florence is a gregarious emergency room nurse who is hated by all cats, and her fantasy name is Heatherfly Windborn, and she is a thief among the story. Marid is a snooty chef hated by their grandchildren. Their fantasy name is Mackerel von Snickle, and their archetype is the wild warrior. All right. Now, we have 3 tarot cards for each person. This is going to give us kind of the gossip of what they are talking about at the what are we doing? Knitting club. This is going to give us a little bit of information about what we're doing, what people are talking about in this world, in this knitting club, and we're going to draw 3 cards for each person. I guess, does that include us? Probably not. So the first person is let me scroll up a little. I've gotten so much into the world building of this that I'm just kind of turned it into a writing stream. But I think that's the way that this game is designed. It's supposed to be for writing, but it is a gamified version of writing. Oh, we've got ads again. So where were we? Betsy. Her gossip. Eugene. Let's draw cards for Eugene. Where did my deck of cards go? All right. We've got star. Nine of spades. Ten of hearts. All right. Eugene's doctor gave him instructions to stop drinking because of his gout. He tried. He was successful for a little bit, but then one day he went overboard. He offended his youngest child, who now won't speak to him. They truly just care. All right, let's do Tilly. 3 cards for Tilly. We have an 8 of hearts. I'm using a regular deck that's sort of been modified into a tarot deck. So you've got 8 of hearts, King of clubs, and 9 of hearts. So let's see what that is. Interesting. I know nothing about tarot. I don't have a tarot deck myself. I don't use them for like divination or anything like that. I have a little tiny bit of understanding of like how it works, in terms of like meanings and things like that. Or at least I did years ago. I looked it up and I was like, I had one of those like, what's it called? Like a hyper focus. And I was like, I'm going to learn everything there is to learn about this one topic. And then I dropped it like 2 days later. So I kind of have a little bit of an understanding. But for this purpose, I just took a regular deck and I added some additional cards to it. To get, so there's like the one deck. Come on. So that is the minor arcana, and then this other deck is the major arcana, and I'm doing my best. So I'm just kind of like, it's a makeshift tarot deck. So let's figure out what Tilly is. Tilly's got a lot going on here. Let's see. All right, Florence. So Tilly wants their children to visit more often. They've been saying that their housekeeper steals food and jewelry, and so they ask their children, please come visit me on a daily basis. I just don't trust this housekeeper. And it's all been a lie. They feel bad about it, but they just want their children to visit more. And so they've been coming up with these excuses. Children have been going along with it, but they feel guilty about manipulating their kids. Let's pick 3 cards for Florence. We have a 6 of diamonds, a 3 of hearts, and the Hierophant. So let's see 6 of diamonds is donated to charity. 3 of hearts is healed an old wound. And the Hierophant is an elderly parent. I think Florence is the young one of the group. I'm going to say that, of course, Florence donated to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. All right. So Florence is the youngest of the group. She knits because she genuinely likes it, and she likes the companionship of working on a project together. She recently donated to charity. Of course, the National Breast Cancer Foundation is now a charity that exists in my world. And she recently reestablished communication with her aging father after realizing that she had forgiven him for the things that he did when she was a child. Now they have dinner one evening per week. And last one is married. Let's put these cards to the side and draw 3 cards for married. 1, 2, 3. These might not have been shuffled properly. We have the 5 of hearts. Got into a fight. Someone came out. And the Wheel of Fortune is a rival. need to head out. Have a great stream. Thank you for being here. Have a good time at whatever you go to next, and get to your next adventure safely or adventurously, whichever one feels right for you. I am sure we will have a great stream. Thank you. So, Marad's ex-lover was recently in some trouble for starting a bar fight. They did not really participate once it got going, but they were the instigator, and authorities weren't too pleased about it. Marad went to the jail to help post their bail, and the ex revealed to Marad that they've recently redefined their sexuality. Let's just, for completion's sake, let's draw one for our character Blanche. We have And for Blanche, she has recently been contacted by a half-sibling she lost touch with during her adolescence. Blanche was somewhat braggy about her budding acting career and felt her half-sibling would hold her back. Now that the tables are turned, the half-sibling is independently wealthy and has the connections to brag about who they know. They want a relationship, but Blanche has to decide if her pride will allow her to make this connection. So that is everybody's gossip. Let's see what the next step is. How to play this game. Alright. So that's essentially... I feel like this is not really a game. Basically, the way that this game is set up is it's really just a bunch of writing prompts. And now that Blanche has all of these characters to draw inspiration from, she's just gonna go back to her home and she's gonna sit down and start writing her next chapter about each of these different events that have been gossiped about. I would love to see like a playthrough of this game with people, you know, different people playing each of the different characters, like Betsy, Eugene, Tilly, and how they each end up writing stories about the different characters. I think that would be really fascinating. But the way that this is set up is it's not really... It doesn't really play in the sense of like plot, I think. Now it's just like, okay, everybody write a story. You've come up with your characters and your backstory, and now everybody sort of like goes off and does their own thing, which is great for like a world building and co-working type stream. But I feel like it's kind of not super accurate to call this a game in the sense that we know of as games, I think. But yeah, this is really interesting as far as taking the story, taking characters and coming up with stories about them just based on the few little things that you know. Like, I think it's interesting that the character of Marid, the archetype, is the wild warrior, and you know, they're there to like, part of their inspiration for what happened to them this week is like a bar fight or whatever. So I feel like that's usable from a storytelling perspective. It's just that there's not really a lot of framework for coming up with like a story the way that D&D would, or even one of the shorter one-shots that's like Sexy Battle Wizards. There's still story, there's conflict. I feel like with this, there's not a super large amount of conflict. Let's see. We've got ads coming up in like a minute or two. And I do need at some point to find some food for myself. So I'm thinking with this ad, I'm gonna put us over onto a break screen. And it's gonna be a bit of a longer break so that I can find something for myself to eat and then come back. And we will play a different game, I think, when I get back. Unless we really like this, so we want to stick with it. But I think it's not quite as interactive. So I think it might be better to enjoy this part and then move on to something. Keyboard smashed. I should do foods as well. Keyboard, while you're here, I was gonna, you know what, if you're okay with it, I'll send you a message on Discord. Because I don't know if I can do it within the Tiltify thing. Let me just take a look. I had a question for you about your donation. It's not that it didn't go through or anything, it's just that it allows you to come up with something for my world. So if you wanted to contribute something, you could. But my computer's not happy with me right now. Oops, let's close this out. We don't need that. I'll need to have a think, but I'm all for. Okay, cool. You can choose one to add to my world: a named character with a backstory, a town name with a special annual festival, or a monster type with a secret weakness. Let me know what you want to do, and we could work on it together, or you could just give me all of the information and I'll add that into the world. Alright. I'm gonna go find some food for myself. So this is gonna be a longer break. I'm thinking maybe like a half an hour. So I'll just put us over onto a break screen, and I'll come back when I have acquired the foods that I need to keep myself going. So I will be back. Enjoy the campfire sounds while I'm out.